Welcome back to Wordy Wednesday. Today we're going to talk about agreements, and this is going to be subject-verb agreements, and it's going to be past, present, future tense agreements. This is a fairly sophisticated realm. It's in the upper levels of errors. In other words, this is an error you're going to see intelligent, articulate people make, as well as people who just don't know any better than to say me and Billy was going. So, when we come back, we'd have some fun with this, and we'd start with a little story. There's a point to the story, and there will be a quiz, so pay attention. Now, several people have asked me where I learned my grammar. My foundational grammar mostly came from one source, and that was a woman named Lorna Ramston. She was my 7th grade English teacher. And well, in the 7th grade, I was in the accelerated class. So while all of my little contemporaries were studying how to write book reports or working on reading comprehension or even spelling, no, my class was different. We were hitting up hardcore grammar. We were dealing with reflexives. We were dealing with diagramming sentences. We were studying iambic pentameter and how to spot it. It was grueling. And I remember envying those other kids who were just writing book reports. Not anymore. No, I'm very glad for what I had. But I have an interesting story about Mrs. Ramston. It's, in a way, it's a tragic story, but it was weird. This was probably the single weirdest experience of my life up to that point, and mind you, I wasn't yet 13. So, 7th grade, last day of school, last class of the day is English. And we all scamper into our English class, and we're doing it quietly. Remember, this is the accelerated class, so we're the goody-goodies. You know, we don't do anything bad. We are not rowdy and boisterous, and, you know, we take our tests, we get our A's, we do our homework. You know, at the drop of a hat, we're going to do somebody else's homework. We were the overachievers, so we were the quiet class, the good class. So we all get in, and there's Mrs. Ramston standing in the front of the room. And our expectation is this is going to be the same as every other class that day. We turn in our books. We're going to hear all about, you know, what we accomplished that year. We're going to talk about what we're doing over the summer. We're going to hear what the teacher is doing. Who knows what somebody like Mrs. Ramston did. There must have been some sort of vacation spa for grammarians somewhere that she would go to, probably in some cute little British village somewhere. No. It's pretty clear she's been crying. Well, sit down. And she starts in on this bizarre monologue. No one gives her any respect. The students laugh at her behind her back. They call her Ramrod. That's true, by the way, because she was rigid, because the whole concept of stick up her butt was not a thing back then. Even the other teachers gave her no respect. Student teachers, young enough to be her grandchildren, would call her Lorna. What was going on in the world? And We are like 12, 13 years old, and we're just baffled. We're just sitting in our chairs staring, and it's going on and on. And virtually every grievance of her life and her entire 42 years, she mentioned that at the time, 42 years teaching English, everything that's gone wrong. And the clock is ticking. And the girl next to me, who knows I can't see the clock, is giving me a countdown every 5 minutes. 2:25, she whispers, 2:30, 2:45. Finally, 3 o'clock rolls around, the bell rings, and she's not letting us go. And one of the boys raised his hand, and she just stared him down. And of course, he puts his hand back down, and we're just sitting there thinking, oh, we're being held captive by a teacher, and it's the last day of school, and we want to go. And about 5 minutes after 3, an egg hits the window. "That was not meant for any of you," shouts Mrs. Ramston. "That was meant for me." Well, this has hit the point where nobody is really comfortable with this anymore. The boy behind me jabs me in the ribs and says, "Go get help." Like, me? Why me? And the girl next to me, the one who's been giving me the countdown on the clock, says, "Tell her you have to go to the bathroom. She'll let you. You're her favorite." So, I mean, this is the first I'm hearing of me being her favorite, but somebody's got to do something. I raise my hand tentatively and, "Can I please go to the girls' room?" She says yes. I bolt out the door before she has a chance to change her mind. Head for the nurse's office. The nurse is not there. Why would she be? School has let out like 5-10 minutes earlier. It's the last day. So I go to the principal's office. When I got into the principal's office, there was nobody at the front desk. I just had to walk into his office. And as Mr. Johnson, something's wrong with Mrs. Ramston. You know, everybody's still in class. She's very upset. I think she's crying. And he looked at me and said, "You stay right here until I come back." And I said, "Well, I have to call my mother because I'll be late." And so that's, at this point, his panic set in. And he looked at me and said, "Do not call your mother. Whatever you do, just stay." There was a reason for that. This is the end of the year. They knew my mother, and he did not want to have my mother flying down to the school 10 minutes later screaming at him about mental patients teaching her precious little darling. So, sitting there, eventually he came back and told me I could go. And when I walked out the door, Mrs. Ramston was sitting in one of the chairs they kept outside the principal's office. Everybody knows that. You know, the chairs where the students sit when they have to go see the principal. And she was just sort of whimpering into a hanky. And in what had to be the stupidest question I had ever asked in my entire life up to this point, I've since outdone myself. I've asked dumber questions since then. I looked at her and said, "Are you okay, Mrs. Ramston?" Of course she wasn't okay. She was as far from okay as it was possible to be. She looked at me and said, "Dear, you really must remember that alliteration is about sound and not letters. Don't forget that." She was referring to an exam we had had at the beginning of the year that I missed that question on it. I was surprised that she remembered that I missed the question on that exam, but that was the last time I ever saw her, and that was the last thing she ever said to me, and I never knew what happened to her. But that was where I learned my grammar. Quiz time. What was wrong with that story? Did you notice that I started off in the past tense? We were the accelerated class. We were the goody-goodies. Then when I moved into the classroom, present tense. So we're all sitting around. Mrs. Ramston is standing in the front of the class, is, not was. Then when I got back into the principal's office, I switched to past tense again. He told me to sit. He told me not to call my mother. That is a tense error. And that is not uncommon. That is the sort of thing that I catch myself doing, because if I want to tell a story, the most effective way is to tell it in the present tense. We all know that. You can pull someone into your tale by talking about the events as if they are going on right now, as if they're with you when you're 12 years old sitting in that class, while someone's having a nervous breakdown in the front of the room. Oh, by the way, I do believe that is what was happening. I think it was just the last straw for her, and she just couldn't take it anymore. Or maybe vacation was long overdue. Who knows? As I say, I never saw her again. Anyway, that is a tense error. And people do this all the time. They switch from past to present. Sometimes they'll switch to future tense, and it's confusing. It's a very easy error to spot once you're mindful of it. But if you are in the habit of relating stories in the present tense, you might not notice. It's something that could just slide right past you because that's your norm. And then you go on to something else, you move outside of the story, and then you're back in past tense again. No. That is an error. And the reason I told you the story is I wanted you to see how it happens. And I'm also quite confident that some of you didn't catch the error. I imagine some of you did, but I also imagine some of you didn't, because this is how we speak. This is normal conversational errors that we all make. But if you're actually going to write, and I would imagine some of you are writing, writing letters, writing for your own entertainment, writing with an eye to publication, whatever. If you're writing, you can't make that error. That's because, well, first of all, you're saving the error for posterity, and you always want to erase out your mistakes if you're saving it for posterity. But it can be like a roller coaster for your readers or your listeners to go from past to present to past to present. It's not good to jostle people around like that. That's the practical reason, aside from the fact that it violates the rules. And we've talked about this before. You violate all the rules you want to if there's no practical reason for the rules. But in this case, there is a practical reason. So that is a tense error. You don't start a sentence by saying, so John and I are sitting around the bathroom, sitting around the bedroom, talking about what we're going to do next. And he said, because we switched right in the middle of that sentence. No, tense error. If you start past, stay past. If you start present, stay present. That's all. Just make sure it's consistent. And I'm not trying to sell you on one over the other. As I say, I believe that in relating anecdotes, relating them in the present tense is the more effective way to do it. So, tense agreement. Subject-verb agreement is different. For some of us, it's easier to spot. But I will tell you that I catch myself doing this when I'm in a long sentence. If there are a number of clauses, I'll have to go back to the beginning of the sentence and see where I started to figure out where I'm going to end up. Let me give you just a quick example. So John and his wife, who was in labor, was driving to the hospital when he was pulled over for speeding. Well, the subject is not John. The subject is John and his wife. So he wasn't pulled over for speeding. They were pulled over for speeding. And yeah, they can't be driving the car. So we have a whole bunch of subject-verb disagreements in that sentence. Oh, that's why I chose that one. I wanted multiple errors. So how would we correct? The first thing we do is that sentence is awkward. So we decide, are we talking about John? Are we talking about John and his wife? The end of the sentence tells us we are talking about John, because John is the one, yeah, his wife's in the car, but John's the one who gets pulled over. So we have to go back to the beginning and reframe. John, who was taking his pregnant wife to the hospital, was pulled over for speeding. That's the quick and easy way to fix something like that. But we can, when it's a longer sentence and many things are going on in the sentence, it can be very hard to remember the essence of the sentence. Who is our subject? What is our subject? Is it John? Is it John and his wife? Now, there is sort of a bastard stepchild of this, and this is one that I find in a lot of well-respected professional writers. John telephoned Bill as he knew he was going to the store that day. So, who's going to the store? Who knew? We got John, we got Bill. John telephoned Bill as he knew. Well, who knew? Was it John or Bill? He was going to the store that day. Who's going to the store? Is it John or Bill? When you start throwing pronouns in, you have to be able to match the pronoun to the noun. Now, he is our consistent pronoun. Our noun should be John. We should be thinking that our noun is John. Maybe not. Maybe John telephoned Bill because Bill knew John was going to the store that day. That is an unclear sentence because we don't have our noun-pronoun agreements lined up. In a sentence like that, the way we would correct it is John telephoned Bill as John knew Bill was going to the store that day. When you have that much going on in a sentence, you're not going to be able to use pronouns. Now, if it were John and Sally, we wouldn't have this problem because we wouldn't be using the same pronoun for both John and Bill. Best suggestion on that is, for the sake of clarity, don't use the pronoun. Even if it sounds repetitious to you, to say John telephoned Bill because Bill knew John was going to the store that day, or because John knew Bill was going to the store that day, or because John knew John was going to the store that day. Repetition is better than ambiguity because your whole point in either speaking or writing is communicating an idea to someone else. If you can't communicate the idea you want to communicate, well, there's no point in even opening your mouth to begin with. Now, a lot of people will have problems. Remember, we're going back to John and his wife on the way to the hospital again. John and his wife, starting with he, they, she. A lot of people have problems with the use of they, them when we're talking about one individual. It's no longer, when I was young and in Mrs. Ramston's class and learning about grammar, if you didn't know the gender of the person about whom you were speaking, you defaulted to he, him, himself, whatever. You've just defaulted to the masculine singular third person pronoun. That was the rule. That is no longer acceptable. And people today, and I've seen academic papers that will say things like, when the subject participated in the study, she instead of he, because they think that's more gender inclusive. It's just as bad. It's the same thing. What is becoming acceptable is they or them. Now, I know some of you are going to say, whoa, we're talking third person plural here. You can't do that. Why not? Shakespeare did it. Seriously, it goes back a long, long way. And Shakespeare is just one example. There are countless other examples. Thackeray did it. I had a list at one time that I got from, I don't remember where I got it from, but I had a list of writers who in the past, well-respected writers, Shakespeare, Thackeray, not, dime novel writers, who did in fact use they or them when speaking about a third person without specifying the gender. I don't have a problem with this. It is becoming accepted. That is one of those things that 10, even 5 years ago, if you were offering a manuscript for publication or submitting an academic paper for review, an editor might well red pencil. Today, not so much. Today, it is becoming more and more accepted. Funny thing is, 1,000 years ago, we did have a word. The word was Thon. And we spoke about this before when we talked about that TH sound, when we spoke about thorn and as those runes. Thon was third person singular, non-gender specific. So you would have him, her, thon. We had that. That was our word. We owned it. And for some reason, we got rid of it. I'd love to see us bring it back because it was a word. It has the benefit of history, and it's less disturbing to people to come up with a brand new word than to take a word that they think they understand and give it a new application. But that's just me. You can use they, them. If a person leaves a comment on the video, they should. Remember, it's a person. They should. I don't have a problem with that. And I would strongly suggest, because I know a lot of you are older and grew up with the same convention that I did, we got to change with the times. We can't defer to male pronouns. It's just not done. For one thing, it makes us seem like dinosaurs. And for another, as a woman, I don't like that my language will exclude me. And I don't like the idea that there is a preconceived notion that other people are male. Well, doesn't make sense when 51% of the population is female, does it? So that's one. I personally am giving you permission to use they or them in third person singular when you don't know the gender. Knock yourselves out. It is becoming accepted. Now, I'm not going to say it's universally accepted yet, but I do believe in another 5, maybe 10 years at the outside, it will be. When I was in college and doing my academic papers, I would do the very awkward he/she. I would never defer to he or him. I had a couple of professors who questioned it, but no one ever penalized me for it because I would make my case for it, the 51% case, and people were okay with it. I think they probably said, oh, she's a women's libber. That was the term they used in those days. Oh, she's a women's libber. No, I just am a human being who is female and doesn't want to be dissed by my own language. Thank you very much. So, subject-verb agreement, tense agreement, and third person singular. Yeah, we're just going to go with they, them, and let people choose. All right. Let's see. We've got book club coming up tomorrow. Oh, and I should take this opportunity to just mention very quickly, I don't want to turn this into a big thing. I have been a little lax dealing with the comments lately. This is actually a consequence of the Bell's palsy. One of the things that people tend not to realize about Bell's palsy is my left eye is not closing as well as it should. It's getting there, but it's not there yet. As a consequence, it's not getting as lubricated as it should. Now, I expected this going in. The first thing I did when I saw my doctor and said Bell's palsy is I need a prescription for an ophthalmological ointment because people literally lose their eyesight from this. And I'd rather not. I don't have a lot of eyesight. I don't want to lose any of it. But over time, it has become irritating. So I put this ointment in my eye, which is viscous like Vaseline, and then I can't see out of it. So my reading has been really, really slow. I promise I will get through the comments, but it's going to be a slog. So just please bear with me. I'm sorry it is taking longer. It is what it is. I will get through them as quickly as I can. Please do not feel slighted or offended if I haven't been able to get to your comment. I promise I will. I will go through them until I get them all. Yeah, even if I'm doing it next month, which I don't think I will be. I'm just not processing visually as quickly as I used to, which was slow to begin with. I mean, what can I say? I read and write Braille, so going through the comments has never been something I've been super good at, but I've always tried to stay on top of it, and I'm just starting to hit a failure point now. So I will get to your comments. I'm just going to need a little more time. All right. I will see you all tomorrow for book club.